It was Halloween 2013. I was 16 years old and was trick-or-treating with my 6-year-old nephew in our local town. We'd covered about 2 blocks door knocking for treats, and we were very successful with the amount of treats that we were able to get. We then reached our next destination. This house had no fences and had a long, curved driveway which led to the front door. We knocked on the door and I stood back so my nephew could take the lead on this visit. It seemed like nobody was going to answer and we were about to give up, and then suddenly the door opened. A woman answered the door. She had dark eyes, dark long hair, and also dressed in dark, daggy clothing. She looked like she had had a hard life. She had not said a word when she opened the door. In her hand she had a wafer tin. She just stuck it out towards my nephew. He took 2 of the wafers. We both said thank you, and the lady just shut the door without saying anything. I couldn't help but feel suspicious about the wafers that the lady had given us, because I had noticed that the chocolate on the inside of the wafer had been scraped out. I decided to tell my nephew that he could not eat the wafer and that we should wait until we get home. But as he always liked being defiant, he wanted to eat it anyway and prove me wrong. So I decided to test the wafer so I knew that it was safe for him to have. What happened after I ate the wafer is a bit hard for me to recall, but I remember smacking the wafer out of my nephew's hand and stomping on it. We decided to walk back to my sister's house because immediately after eating the wafer, I was not feeling like myself. My body felt stiff and was seizing up. Everything around me seemed to be speeding up. On our way back, there is one thing I will never forget. I recall seeing a family. There was a mum, dad, and their son. The son was dressed up as Jigsaw from the movie series Saw, and it's just something I will never forget whilst all this was happening. The boy was just staring at me for a very long time and just would not stop staring. As we started getting closer to the house, I started feeling certain symptoms that I assumed were side effects from eating the wafer. I was starting to feel nauseous, and there was this odd sensation in my chest, which made my heart beat really fast. It felt like there was bubbles in my chest. I also noticed that I was struggling to control my hands. I seemed to be constantly twitching. Eventually, we got back to the house, and my family members were trying to figure out what had happened. One of my relatives thought that the wafer could have contained marijuana, but I felt my symptoms were not consistent with that. We decided the best thing to do was to go to the hospital and find out what had happened. We did a blood test, and it was after this that the doctor had some shocking news. He would go on to tell us that I had methamphetamine in my system. I was completely shocked. What was even more shocking was that the doctor said it was extremely lucky that my nephew did not eat his wafer, as the dose was big enough to kill him. My takeaway from all of this, and my only piece of advice that I will give to you after this story, is never accept unwrapped candy from a stranger at Halloween. Ever.